I've always wanted to tell the story of my deconversion, but I never really got around to it. Also, I wasn't really sure if I should. You see, my deconversion wasn't due to some deep intellectual reasoning like many other atheists. Instead, a lot of it was due to emotional and psychological influences. Atheists typically take pride in using reason and rationality over emotional reasoning. I felt really embarrassed that my path to atheism may have been due to some emotional reasoning. Anyway, I feel telling my story might be useful. I grew up in the South, and like most African American children, my upbringing was a Christian one. We mostly attended non-denominational Christian churches. The Christian worldview was never anything that I needed to be convinced of. My loved ones told me it was true, and I believed it. The church told me the world was created in 7 days, and I believed it. My parents taught me that our Savior died and was resurrected into heaven. I believed it. I came to the belief system with a childlike faith, so believing wasn't difficult. It wasn't long before I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I was around the age of 7 or 8 when I went to Sunday school, and one day our teacher taught us about hell and what happens to people that go there. He told us about how Jesus saved us from having to go to hell. I was very happy that Jesus saved us from having to go to a place of torment with the other sinners, so I went up for altar call and asked Jesus into my life. The idea of hell scared me, so I actually did this prayer a few times, just to be safe. From then on, I lived a Christian lifestyle. I prayed, I talked to Jesus all the time, even when I was just walking around. I listened to Christian music, I spoke in tongues, I watched Christian TV programs, and I read the Bible with my family every day. We actually finished reading the entire Bible. Later, when we moved, my father became an assistant pastor. His passion for the scriptures was an inspiration to me and made me more earnest to deepen my relationship with God. I believe that things started to change for me once I started to attend college. I went to a private college in Georgia to become an engineering major. Part of the requirement for attending the college was that we had to take a course in biblical studies. These classes taught me things that I never learned in church and in Sunday school. I learned that God's name wasn't just God, it was Yahweh. I also learned that many scholars didn't even believe that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. None of this really hurt my faith, but it was extremely interesting to me. I started going to Christian organizations on campus on a weekly basis to learn more and to strengthen my faith further. After taking a few classes, I found that when I later went to predominantly African American churches, I didn't feel like I was learning. I remember one time I went to a new church and they basically hollered and sang out Bible verses about Noah's Ark. There was no meat, no substance to the material, and it was mostly theatrical. I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of this, so I decided to dive into personal study. I found myself starting to go to church less and less each week and instead focusing on self-study. Then I noticed that I was starting to have difficulty in college. Engineering was proving to be extremely difficult compared to my courses in high school. I always worked and studied hard, and I didn't party every weekend like my other classmates, so what was I doing wrong? I prayed for help because I wasn't sure if I was taking the right course in life. I knew God had a plan for me and set me on this course, so I continued to follow it, but was it right? Should I have been studying instead of going to church every weekend? Should I have been studying instead of going to the student Christian groups on campus? I felt like I was beginning to doubt God's plan in my life. I also started doubting myself intellectually. I felt most confident in my religious studies, and studying the Bible also brought me comfort, so I focused on that.